All right, so this is the second pass of character creation screens. The first pass was my first attempt, and I discovered that there were things that I wanted to add. What's a challenge when designing character screens for role players is trying to balance the difference between experienced role players who are comfortable writing backstory. They want, player agency. They want to do what they want in their stories. We want their creativity to shine. But also, I expect to get a lot of people who are new to role play and are not experienced with writing backstories. Maybe they don't like reading lore. Maybe they just want to get started quickly. So I wanted to also make sure that we had a lot of options for onboarding, helping people understand how to create their character, how to create characters with depth, how to integrate backstory into their character creation. For those of you who have not read through the source book yet, or perhaps it wasn't clear enough, there's actually two worlds in our fiction. The waking world, which is known as Valdara, the Kingdom of Valdara, and it's based on the Oikumene map of actual Greek history, which is a map that shows the known world at the time of the Greeks. And that includes Europe, parts of the Slavic belt, Mediterranean, and Northern Africa. And that's the waking world backstory world. It's an alternate reality. It's similar to Earth, but I've changed some core points into the backstory. Not London, actually. Charlemagne is the dominant Western market, and in the East, it's actually Constantinople rather than Rome. We have a different monotheistic religion called the Faith, which is a blended Abrahamic religion, as well as a lot of folk practices going on. By basing it in an Eastern Abrahamic tradition, they did not subjugate folk practices quite as much as Western Christianity did, so I wanted that blend. You are able to write your stories for the waking world pretty much any way you want, because they're not actually part of the gameplay. They are pure creative endeavor. The second world, which is the dreaming world known as Grimmloch, for which the game is named, comes in when you start playing the game. What you just saw me walking around, that is a little town on the island of Buyan, which is a mythical island in Slavic mythology that appears and disappears. It's one of the mythical islands. We'll probably have Atlantis. We'll probably have Thule. We'll have a wide range of mythological locations. So when we start going through the character creation screens, it's divided into two parts: your waking world backstory and your present dreaming world. Before I go on, does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, I see Morna's typing. And David, you're just going to handle random questions outside of the character creation. Okay? All right, so Morna, I'll come back to you. Right on the edge of your seat. Okay, so we're going to go into character creation. We hit new character, which of course is now not working. I don't know how that happened. It was working.
Try deleting one of yours.
Okay. All right.
Or maybe.
I raised the limit. There we go. All right. So character creation, and we're going to name this one Gems. We create our character. When we click on Gems, we have all of these sections to be completed. We're going to hit Create Character. And you come into this character creation system. It starts on the main profile in Valdara. You can give it a family name, call it Archibald. You can put in an age. You can put in a birth month. You can put in your actual birth date. So the 11th, birth time, and choose a social class. You've got pronouns, masculine, feminine, and they, them. Occupation, works as a mechanical tech. And this is the first pass of your profile. On the side, the instructions are right in the game creation for you to read. There's guides that explain what it is, where you're going. I'll work on improving them as we discover holes in the explanation, but the whole point is everything is built in here, not going searching on a wiki or another site. I've got the content right in here. Navigating down the line, you would click on region selection. This is the Oikumene map, which is the Kingdom of Valdara. You can navigate it, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. It was just made very basic in a map making tool. I think it's pretty, but it's not intended to be amazing. There are 3 main cities. So there's Karlingrad, Tsarigrad, and Ecosium. On this map, there's no Jerusalem. Instead, I went with Algiers as the primary southern city. You can click on any one of these and it will describe the region. Pick the region that you like. All right, people are having some difficulties hearing me. Do I need to slow down?
I was going to say, I hear you loud and clear, so I'm not sure.
All right, well, I'll do my best. It might be a connection issue, but even still, we are recording this, so that should capture the audio as long as Gems has got it. So you'll pick your region. Again, this just defines your character before it enters the game. So this is the new part that I added. There is a built-in natal chart. David actually coded a full astrology system, and it puts in your birth information, pulls out your chart, your natal chart, and then gives you a reading at the time of your character's birth. You're not obligated to follow it. Anyway, you are not obligated to follow any omens read at your character's birth, but this is one of the onboarding ideas. I wanted to make sure that people had some things to, dig into. Strengths, weaknesses, likes, dislikes. It's just this general idea to tell you a little bit about what your character would be like at the time of their birth. Any questions so far? I'm going to go and look at the chat. Okay. Next, we go into the Waking World backstory. This starts as a basic draft. You can write whatever you want into the draft of your character, okay? Or you can go over to Generate Sample and click Generate Sample, and it will create a simple backstory for you. This is not intended to replace, your actual creative writing, but for some people, it can be a little hard to figure out what to write, what not to write. This will give you a sample. You can click Copy to Draft, and now you can edit that. So for instance, I can do something like, please add 4 siblings to the write-up, okay? If I hit Generate Sample again, it will take your instructions into account and update your sample backstory and add siblings if you like. Or you write it completely yourself, completely creative. Just that balance between helping people get started with the lore versus people who want to just completely write it. So now, as you can see, on this side, we have names, and those names are authentic to the region in which you selected for your character. If you like that, you can copy to draft.
So, quick question. This is taking into effect all the stuff that you put in the beginning, your natal chart, all that kind of stuff, and giving you like a sample to play with.
Yep.
Okay.
Because one of the challenges we always had, remember when people were trying to write backstories, we'd have this giant lore. It was a lot for people to read. And then I had to write cheat sheets, and then we were still correcting it because, you want to get your backstory right, but it can often be a challenge to get your backstory right if you haven't fully digested the lore. So this gives you a couple of options, a quick story that you can join, or you can write the lore and go over to the fact check. And if you hit proofread my draft, it will take that story and run it as a fact check against the backstory and give you some corrections, some suggestions, some ideas. This prompt editor needs to be fixed. It's got some stupid suggestions. But the concept is, please go ahead and fact check it. If you want to accept the changes, you can hit apply edits, and it will actually modify your draft and fix those edits for you.
So if you use something that's anachronistic to your time and place, it will fix it?
Yep. All trying to make it easier for onboarding and for new role players. I expect a lot of
And then you
people are going to
swear
write
and
their own
try.
stories from scratch and then just hit the fact check and make sure they didn't miss anything. But for those people that need to do it, none of this is enforced. It's your story. You only share this story in character. It's not published. This is all for your creative expression.
Okay,
And
so
when we
there's no
did it,
reason to frequently lie here either because nobody else sees it but you.
nope. If at some point people are like, oh, but I want to publish my backstory, we'll put together a process for that.
Gotcha.
One of the things we learned when playing Grimmloch the first time around was that some people wanted to not even have any memory of the waking world. They arrived in Grimmloch with no memory whatsoever, and that's how they wanted to play it. That works here. We had people who came in groups, and what they wanted to do was come from the same town in the waking world. So they built family relationships, they built connections, they had ongoing stories they developed about what was going on in their waking worlds. They had complete freedom to build that creative backstory. And some people just wanted something basic and to move on. Any questions so far on that? I'm going to go over and see if people are writing any texts.
Morning.
Morn is always typing something. Morn is a typer.
I got my eye on it.
Okay. Let's see, what did he say? Yeah, I think a lot of people will do that. They just don't want that backstory infusing. It's totally up to them. When you switch over to Grimmloch, we're now talking about building your in-game character. Let's start on profile. And what it does is it now reruns your natal chart at a different year because Grimmloch actually occurs in a different universe, an alternate universe, 2,000 years in the past. So the stars at the time of your arrival are now calculated differently. And what this does is kind of give you a little bit of a, what's your star chart tell you when you enter, and where may things have changed? So this particular one says strength, where once you move through the world with a gift for weaving connection, for speaking in ways that others could hear, the dreaming sky takes that ease with words and tempers it into something sharper, something that cuts to the truth. You no longer scatter your attention across surfaces, you gather it with a blade. And each of these readings will be slightly different depending on what type of character you have. But the whole idea here is to give you ways in which to think about how your character evolves when it enters the dreaming world. And it ties into the influence of the stars at the time of you entering Grimmloch. Appearance. You'll have a physical description and a clothing description section, as well as the ability to upload a picture. I do know that when I'm doing this, you don't see it in the recording, but the picture can be scrolled in and out. You can center your face until it's right where you want it, and you hit confirm, and it will attempt to make sure that your face is always in the center of your image. That you can upload whatever pictures you want. It's a smart orienting portrait system. We really want people to express their character through their 2D graphical image, because the 3D sprite is intended to be a token, like on a map. So it's not intended to have that level of detail. We're going to use 2D images. We hope people will bring their own art. And this is where we wanted to support that. Be able to type in your descriptions. A tall young man with brown hair, wearing brown and green, can't type, ranger clothing. And that's all done. We're going to hit save here. Gender. It was very important for me to offer more than just masculine and feminine genders, but not to introduce genders from a modern standpoint. All of these genders here are drawn directly from folklore. You can filter by genders that use the he, him, his pronouns, the ones that use the she, her pronouns, and the ones that use the they, them pronouns. When you pick it, it gives you a description of what those pronouns are. All of that is also on the source book, on the website, if you want to go and read the different genders. My goal was to really keep the whole folkloric registry while presenting gender options that were at least evocative of some of the modern framing we have, so that you would find a place that was suitable, but without trying to plug on modern gender framing into a folkloric world. Any questions on that? All right. Race. Eventually, there will be over 100 races. Anything that I can beg, borrow, to steal to give you a 3D game sprite, whether it is one that's customizable or only colorable. I want to do centaurs. I want to do trolls. I want to do sphinxes. I want to do all types of walking and talking animals, because it's very fairy tale. There will be a ton of races, because we don't have to create that high-end, over-the-shoulder, finite detail on our models. We're just providing you with a map token for orientation. During most of playtesting, and even probably most of early access, we're going to stick with the human avatars, just because it's easier to get the testing done, and then we'll start releasing and upgrading alternate versions. The humans got a real upgrade from the classic human. For most times, humans are humans are humans, and they're boring. What I did is I went and I delved all the way into folklore to find all the different types of special humans. Twiceborn, blooded, mooncalled. This will include shifters. All of these different types of humans are integrated. Yes, David?
Can we try turning that AC on? Do you think it's going to be too loud?
I do think it will be too loud. Okay. Any questions on the human species types? So what was really, I thought, important was to make sure that the humans were as magical and as folklorically relevant as the other races. I never really loved the, oh, you're just human. So I went digging for, the elements of being human that, such as being a hero in mythology, means that you have some type of divine coverage, you're powerful, you're supernatural. This is all about being equal with the rest of the races. Starting location is very simple. We have one. There you go. We have one starting location.
More to go.
More players we have, the more locations we'll have. Factions. There are 8 factions. The first 4 are considered player factions. They are generally cooperative factions, which means the leaders of these first 4 factions generally seek to get along with each other. And then there are 4 factions which are considered NPC factions. Players can join them. These guys don't get along with anybody. These are your higher conflict factions. So the first 4 is a type of Knights faction. There are 5 sub-factions: British, French, German, Norse, and Middle Eastern. The Agorate is the Mediterranean Rims faction, and it covers the Corsari, who are sea captains, desert mystics, charioteers. This one was fun. This is a type of Greek warrior, but because the world of Grimmloch is an archipelago, I creatively adapted them into charioteers on the water. Consortium, this is for your merchant and guild masters. House of Wisdom is for your scholars and wizards and mages. The Aelfyn Sith has all types of fae, not just British fae, not just European fae, but it's broken down into the gentry, the court fae, the horde, which are your more tribal, like your goblins, the unhallowed, which are fae that are associated with death, such as the Bina Sheath or the Lima Sheath, so undead. Folkling, these are your house elves, and Wilderkin, which are your nymphs and other types of nature fae. The next of the 4 factions is the Dunraven Folk, and this is what I would consider the more barbarian groups. So this covers early Celtic, early Nordic, early Slavic, all the way down to the Aegean Sea, because the Slavic belt travels all the way down to what is now Albania. So the variety here, this would be the Gaelic clan, the Nordic clan, the Slavic clan, the Nemedian are the magical practitioners, and then your seafarers. The last 4 faction is a traditional pirates faction. The Golden Court is a kind of a mix between dark beauty, control. I've got a really cool longer write-up on it, but it is for people that are looking for that beautiful death setting. The Nightmare Court is obviously where all the nightmares are. It's also blended with the decay of urbanization that comes in the waking world. So you're going to see clockwork in here. You're going to see people playing wind-up dolls. All of that element comes into this. And Blackbriar Abbey is the people that are looking to play some type of fanatic who is against pretty much everybody. So those are the 8 canon factions, and you'll be able to choose any one of them as for your character. While you are constrained to 1 faction per character, you can earn a reputation and respect anywhere. So you're not bound to being only able to play with 1 faction. You can grow your reputation with any of the factions. Any questions so far?
Ruse types.
If you want to be a Moor, then you will start in the waking world and you will probably choose Sahil, which is on the southwestern coast of northern Africa, and in the waking world is called Sahil. There's other options. I can go back to that. Once you're in here, you can be whatever you want. Your culture doesn't define you. Your character defines you as a human. Token map. This takes a little while to load, but this is how you customize your character. Customizations are intended to be limited because you're only going to see this guy really itty bitty tiny. I've got him big so you can get a good look at it, but you'll be able to change your skin color and change your height. These will all vary based on which race you choose. So very short for the halfling folk, very large for the gigalith folk. Basic skin colors. Again, we kept it very simple. Some different hair choices, not a ton. What we'll do as the game gets more popular and we start making more money, we will hire people to come in and upgrade hair choices. If you or somebody you know is a 3D artist and wants to work on doing hairstyles for us and willing to volunteer, please have them contact me. Hair colors, there should be more hair color choices here. It's just all that's showing up. Basic clothing and armor. Let's make sure he loads.
There's a choose something other than armor first.
Yeah, okay. Some of these options have to come out. I'm not sure I'm going to have the glowing eye one. You are able to customize the colors of your clothing, saturation, brightness, hue, and then you can copy that to all of the slots. So if you choose this, it will set the color to match. And you open boots. Okay. Change these colors, change your boots. You can copy to all stats, and it will match it up based on different color combinations. There's 3 color slots for each item. So you've got basic color control, gloves, pants. And the idea here is to basically attempt to give you a basic avatar that is reminiscent of your character. Any questions so far? Some of the 3D tokens that we offer will not have that level of clothing customization because the model simply won't have it integrated, but you will still have some ability to change the colors on your character, hopefully. But in general, we expect to have hundreds of little tokens, some customizable, some you choose and color change. Any questions on this?
Can you
Combat
spin
dice. Go ahead.
can you spin the character while you're building it so you can look at it?
At the moment, no, but you will be.
Yeah.
Works
Yep.
for me.
Yep. So combat dice. Most RPGs only have dice for combat. We have both combat and social dice. I'm going to go over combat dice first. Combat dice is a crosshatch of 2 separate features, your attributes and your skills. So it explains in here what the difference of the combat attributes are. Vigor is your ability to bring determination to what you're doing. It's generally damage. It's intended to be damage. It's your resolve, your ability to force your point, to be able to deliver a blow, to bring a magical effect. It's primarily damage based. Aegis, on the other hand, is about situational awareness and defense, using a shield, getting out of the way, how far can you run or dodge, how well do you understand what's going on around you. It's situational awareness. And nurture is your ability to support others, affects magical healing. Right here it says magical damage. It's not magical damage. It's magical healing and providing buffs to your party. So improving one of their skills. It runs like Ultima Online on a range of 0 to 100 with 225 points for each pool. You can spend your points. Once you've hit 225 points, you're done. Combat skills, there are 4 martial combats: blades, swords, clubs, blunt, shields, which do damage, shields do damage as well, and bows, which will include crossbows, plus 4 magical battle systems, all drawn from historic folklore. Magistry ties primarily to high magic or ceremonial magic. For those who don't know, something akin to Aleister Crowley type magic. Cunning is classic folk magic. So we're talking about Pennsylvania Dutch powwow. We're talking about trolldom out of Scandinavia. We're talking about fey magic. Cunning, it's your folk magic practices, your classic witch magic. Wildermancy matches to actual fairy tale magic out of fairy tale stories. They're all a little different. And spirit song is a combination bard shamanic magic practice. Okay, so in here, spirit song, you'll be using musical instruments. It's a lot of bard types magic, songs over time, area of effect spells, but it is primarily the shamanic magical path for combat. Any questions on that? And you guys can, hit press to talk and ask your questions in channel. You don't have to type them. I just didn't want everybody talking over me or somebody with an open mic and a child in the background. So we all know how that goes. All right. Nobody's raising their hand or jumping around. I'm going to go on to social dice. Now, when I started looking at social dice, I come from a tabletop background with like hundreds of skills to pick. And I've noticed that in most systems, a lot of those are very hard to suss out. What's the difference between medicine, herbal medicine, battle, medic, etc., etc. And I just thought that was a little too overwhelming for people that aren't familiar with all of those skills. Also, that makes my life a lot harder for programming. So I did the same crosshatch. There are 5 social attributes and 5 esoteric sciences. The social attributes have cool names. They're not all that sophisticated. Prowess is athletic. And for those of you that can read the screen, you're going to see here on the side, there's a description of them. These will be up on the website soon. I just haven't done it yet. Virtuosity talks about your artistic ability, how you are able to turn things into art. Sovereignty are social skills, your ability to intimidate, manipulate, encourage, bribe, all of those social skills that are social combat skills. Acumen is practical and technical knowledge, and sagacity is a combination of both your scholarly mastery as well as your divination skills. In this game, divination is real. It's not just a case of you guessing and hoping that some game master picks it up and figures it out. You will actually be able to engage in divination, tarot cards, runes, divining, astrology, and find out information in your chosen esoteric science that your character would not otherwise know, because the system will actually go and get you the information and give you information that your character might not have. Think about it as deep embodiment that borders on the psychic. Any questions on that?
Will the social attributes affect combat, and will combat affect your social attributes?
Yes. So if you do something to somebody such as encourage them, it will improve your combat dice. If you do something to terrify them or intimidate them, it will lower their combat dice. So it's all mechanically valid. Now, we don't force people to role play the results of the dice because people don't like being forced into anything. But at the same time, they still are dealing with a limited, observable restriction on their actual character. If they want to just simply shrug it off in role play, we're not going to dock them for that, because the consequence was already applied at the mechanical level. Obviously, if people really God mode, there may be conversations involved, but the idea was to allow you to play the stoic and not have to wander around going, oh, I'm so terrified. I'm so terrified. You could pull the, I'm not afraid of you. So we wanted to let people to be able to role play any way they wanted without forcing them into a particular role play delivery for what you do to them. But the mechanical weight does still exist. Now,
So can I interrupt for just a moment?
Sure.
Grin, go ahead and open your chat window. If you have any questions or anything, I'm fielding them. And welcome.
Welcome. Now, I want to brag a little bit about the esoteric sciences. So if you hate them, don't tell me now. You'll hurt my feelings. You can tell me tomorrow. So I love pre-materialist science. I have a love of what the world looked like when we believed that anything was possible, rather than assuming that only science was the only way that we could understand our world. And for those of you who are not familiar with history, there was a period of time where sciences such as astrology and astronomy were considered one science. Also, when alchemy and chemistry were considered one science. Matter of fact, it wasn't until the 1700s where those two things were broken out into two separate science, and one was giving a stamp of approval, and the other was simply put off as superstition. What I did is I said, what if a world never had that happen? What if that scientific mindset was never applied to early sciences? Because in a magical world, it wouldn't have been applied the same way it does in our non-magical world. In a magical world, things like divination is real, magic is real. Being able to read the lines of the earth and understand things is real. So I'm going to have you take a look at this geomancy. And what you'll notice here is that geomancy is an entire life science. It covers the entire spectrum from artistry to sovereign skills, to athletic skills, to knowledge, to practical skills. So when you choose your combination, if you do high sagacity, okay, and you do high geomancy, you're going to be rolling at the top of your skill set for spelunking, rock climbing, mining, all of the athletic skills that would be associated with having to actually perform the practice of geomancy or mining, you now have at a max level. What you also have is, because sagacity is at 100, that impacts any practical application in any of the other esoteric sciences. So even if you never take anything in dendronology, you would still have a 50-50 chance to do plant taxonomy, understand ecology, study mushrooms, apply the doctrines of science. It's a crosshatch so that you can have your talent intersect with your educational system. And there's 8 of them. Physiology is primarily about the physical form with a specialty on fauna and the earth. So it's very much about animals. And of course, there are a lot of animals in this game. Herbology is obvious. Dendronology is trees and the forest. So this is your classic ranger practice. If you want to be a traditional ranger, you want dendronology. Mastering forest ecology, moving with evasion and stealth, orienteering, shipbuilding, cartwright, crafting bows and arrows. I made it all one kind of unique life cycle that is further detailed by the social attributes you choose. And you can be jack of all trades and have a little bit in everything, or you can dominate in 2 or 3. All of that flexibility is available to you. Any questions? Awesome. I really did not want to deal with classes which pigeonhole your character into being that type of ranger or that type of paladin. I wanted you to be able to define your character in a way that was balanced, so you can't have everything, but also in a way that was interesting and dynamic. And how you role play it is all up to you. This just kind of sets what your dice area of expertise is.
Okay, a question. If you were fully invested in geomancy and you decided next week that you didn't like geomancy, how easy is it to re-roll or to change your focus?
In the first month, you will basically be able to change your dice any way you want, okay? That may drop down to 2 weeks after a while, but in the beginning, there'll be no limits on how you change your characters. Please go ahead and change your characters. After that, you will earn points based on how old your account is. So after a week, you'll be able to change, say, 5 points. After another week, you can change 10 points so that you'll be able to slowly graduate your character from one to the other. And we're doing that so we don't have people who are like, well, I'm just going to flip it over to dendronology so I can make my bows. And then tomorrow I'll flip it over to herbology so I can grow my plants. And then tomorrow I'm going to flip it over. We didn't want that. Role players hate when you just completely cut everybody else out and don't actually engage in shared and group play. But at the same time, we want to recognize that your interests change and evolve. So you'll be able to earn points where you'll be able to pretty much change your dice, within a 3-month period. You do a little bit right away, can change more later. We expect most people to be changing within a scale. So they're gonna be like, wow, I don't really want that much prowess. I discovered I don't really like harvesting ore and I don't really want to go do that. I want to drop my prowess down because what I really want to do is make swords and I misunderstood. Let me swap that around. So that balance will come up with and what feels good for everybody. I'm sure people will have a ton of opinions, but right now that's our current plan, is to give you the ability to change in the beginning and then gradually adjust your skill sets over it. Any other questions? Okay, so now my turn. Anything in here that is a real turnoff for you guys? Anything where you look at it and you're like, nope, I'm out of here. I need this in my game. Has anybody had that reaction? And if so, please let me know what it was. Obviously, I know we're just doing the character creation. We are all either very, very polite, or very, very polite. Take polite.
No, there was
Information
none of
overload.
that. Yeah. You had me at Kraken, to be honest.
Is there anything that anybody likes specifically?
I
Okay,
like
if I
the
may,
way.
I'm.
Go ahead.
No, you go first, James.
I like the way that your esoteric sciences are explained on the right because a lot of that stuff is way higher than I know what it is. But I do have a question with the combat dice.
Mhm.
Does in that tab are the descriptions on the right? I didn't see of like what each of them kind of mean.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's I was just that I didn't see and I was like, "Oh, does that match?" But yeah, no, that's cool. Cuz that I would lean heavily on. And I like that it's there and broken out for you so that if you don't have to admit you're dumb and you can just
Well,
read.
I'm normally primarily accused of writing too much, not writing enough.
No, and I like the way that you broke it out. So it's because you do that to me sometimes and I'm like I don't want to read all of that, but I don't have to here. I can go to column 3 and read the ones that matter to me. Do you know what I mean? Like for my brain that works.
Okay. Any other
Okay,
questions?
so
Go ahead.
if you're hearing me, Sherm,
Hi, Sharon.
the social attributes always, I think it's overall good. For me, for example, there's too many choices still, especially at the level of, the human characterization. But I guess, that with the help of the AI also, it's easy to fill the text, so it would work. What really worries me is how you apply in the role play the social skills, because the social skills. If you try to persuade someone and you just persuade them because you're writing very well and making a good point, then the role for the social skill would be ignored. And the opposite also going to happen, that you are, I don't know, very persuasive as your dice, but nobody really wants to do what you're saying, so the role is wasted. I guess that this will work better with the NPC characters because they will react to that. But still, all the social attributes are more difficult to play than combat values, which really influence a specific role.
They are. And I
And
think
you're very
that
true.
that is going to be one of the big things that we're going to have to test and have discussions about. I have a working theory on how they're going to play out, but like anything, they may not survive contact with the enemy. So we're going to figure out how to get them balanced right. What I wanted them to represent fictionally is not a forced change in how a player responds, but a physiological or psychological influence. So let me give you an example. Let's say, Sherm, I come up on you and I want to intimidate you. If I'm engaged in physical, traditional intimidation tactics, such as buffing up my body, glaring at you, acting like I'm going to do something, your body has a response to that recognizes that intimidation is in play. And the mechanical system is going to impact that. For example, you'll probably take a small hit to your vigor, meaning your determination kind of shrinks a little bit because you failed your roll against their roll. If they won the roll, you're physically intimidated. But that doesn't mean that's how you have to react. You could, when intimidated, everybody reacts differently when intimidated. corner a badger, and even if it's a bear, that badger is going to come after you, even if they're intimidated. But now their adrenaline is running. They're not quite as focused. They're not quite as in control. There is a hit to their physical ability to respond. And that was the dynamic that I'm trying to create, so that there's a recognizable impact to your physicality, your ability to think through it without taking away player agency, because I hate taking away player agency. That should come about through the role play. Does that help explain it a little better? Okay, great.
Thanks, Lara.
Okay, so that's the idea. If you're encouraged, right? Like if somebody comes up and goes, "You've got this, Gems, you've got this, you can do this." You puff up a little bit, you're feeling a little bit more determined, your Aegis swells because, you're good. And then, you attempt to be encouraged and you go, "Fuck no, I'm out of here." How your
like I'm
character
still a coward at heart, so it is
exactly
what it is.
how your character actually responds is up to the player. And it is going to also be up to the NPCs. You may intimidate a troll, and his solution to being intimidated is to attack. The NPCs have the same squirrely difference of personality types and responses to conflict that players do. Nothing is determined ahead of time. It's just a soft, you can't just pretend it was nothing, because now you're functioning at either an improved or a reduced rate. Will that make a big difference in some combat? Not all of them, but there's going to be the correct application of when intimidating somebody really makes a difference. So, for example, if you're actively intimidating an NPC every day, day after day after day after day, that's going to change how that NPC responds. It's going to either become more and more hostile, it may flee and leave the town, or it's going to go and get help because you're intimidating it, or it's going to simply roll over and give you what you want. Every NPC responds differently because they have different personalities, they have different natal charts, they have different cultural standards. You don't know how they're going to respond. Unless, of course, you want to do a divination and find out more about that character, and the system will actually tell you what that character's strengths and weaknesses are in some kind of cool, vague, readerly language, so it sounds cool. But you'll be able to actually figure out how these NPCs work. Okay. Now, that is the end of the character creation.